Guys, I'm excited. Welcome to the Kevin Duragi Show. I'm your host, Kevin Duragi. Today we're talking to Chris Hake. So he's up in the Madison, Wisconsin area. But gosh, his story is wonderful, right? So I don't want to give too much away, but some of the stuff that he talks about is like there's no secret sauce. You just got to work. You just got to focus, right? Some of his advice is like you need two things. You need coach and you need to focus. And he talks about this story so much. We talk about mindset, but he is like his life literally depended on fixing his mindset. So guys, pay attention, listen to this, give it your ears, but it's going to come up. You'll find out. But guys, come and listen to my friend Chris and we'll have a great conversation. So glad you're here. Hey friends, welcome to the Kevin Duragi Show. I'm your host, Kevin Duragi. Fancy that? It's named after me. That's awesome. So today we have a special guest right from Madison, Wisconsin. So how cool is this?
We'll take it. Yeah.
Great white north, eh? But we have Chris Hake, Cake with an H. Hake. Got it.
That's the easiest way for me to explain it.
I mean, got to give me something for these. So Chris is up in Madison. He is like a king of self-storage. He runs the local RIA up there, which is the Real Estate Investment Group, Real Estate Investing Association.
Yep.
RIA. And also sometimes you call them meetups, but this is the official version of it. Sure. So he is from Madison. Chris, I am happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Kevin, I am super happy to be here. I appreciate you inviting me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having a fireside chat.
Fireside? We should get like one of those. I'll throw it in the background.
Yeah, it's warming up here. So we're in Wisconsin where it's, normally in March we have cold winter snow, but it's sunny out even though I blocked the windows so we could,
So we're probably 50s here, maybe into the low 60s in St. Louis. What is a warm spring for you right now? Right
now we are probably in the upper 40s and we'll probably be 50 today, which is beautiful for late March. We'll take it.
Oh my gosh. So we just got done with spring break. So I got 3 boys, wife, right? We all just went down to Mexico. We just got back. So I got a little bit of a tan. Yeah. But I'll tell you, once you get used to warm, it's hard to go backwards.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We've got spring break this week, and our kids are all out of school, so spring break looks a lot different. And my son's getting married in a couple months, so we've got different plans for the spring in our life right now.
Would you say 53 days or something like that?
Yeah, give or take an hour.
That was my joke.
It's a good one. I know. I had to take it. You left it open.
I mean, come on. Oh, Chris, this is awesome. So, Chris, obviously you're in real estate now. You help, you teach, you train, you educate, and you're also highly active in it. But let's rewind, right? So we'll call it more of the expert or master Chris. Let's rewind. How did Chris get into real estate? What is a little bit of your origin story?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I started out like probably a lot of people, at least back in the day, right? In the 80s and 90s, I, went to college and I did all that stuff. And it was kind of the path. I think I looked at it and I either had a choice after school, high school, you go to work right away, you go to the Army, or you go to college. Those are the 3 choices. I didn't really want to go into the military at that time, and I wasn't ready to work, so I went to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Spent a couple years there, did what most people did, probably partied too much, and wasn't the 4.0 student at all. So it took me until getting out of school to be in the school of life to actually figure it out. But I got through that and went through college and got out the other side, came to work at a bunch of different places. And I wasn't going where I wanted to go at that point. I was making some money, had a lot of debt, all that stuff from, school loan and whatnot, but got through probably about 4-5 years outside of college. And I just realized that I was always looking for more. I had that entrepreneurial spirit. And I just always was noticing real estate. And this is in the probably late 80s, early 90s. But I didn't really do anything to it. And fast forward to 1994, bought my first property. It was a condo with my, at that time, fiance wife, Susanna. And we did something that today the word gets used all the time, the house hack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we did a condo hack before it was even a word, and didn't know it at the time. I bought something that needed fixing up. We fixed it up and sold it a year later, made money. And I was already in real estate and I didn't even know it. And probably about a year and a half after that, into about 96, I bought Carlton Sheets. It was $99, no money down. I still have that course to this day. Cassette tapes. You know what a cassette tape is, Kevin?
Yeah, I was there. I've been around.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't reel to reel. It was yeah. So cassette tapes, and that really got me started. I literally, when I bought that course, and I think of all the people that have come through the RIA, all the stuff I've done over the last many decades, all the courses I bought, and spent tens of thousands of dollars. I spent $99 back in 1996. And I literally, within 30 days, I had a property under contract. I didn't know any better. I didn't know what to do. I just read it and I followed it, and it got me started. And that was kind of my journey, was, 96, 97. And within 3 years, I had 42 units in the Madison area. And, I brought other people. I had a partner from college, a buddy who had some money, and my dad came in. He was kind of our money guy, and I was the boots on the ground. And, we bought and just followed the course. And so it's not unlike what we do today, except I find that a lot of people don't follow, right? They want the shortcut. They want the easy button. And I didn't know any better. There was no RIA at the time. And I just started going. And my wife was on board. She was supporting. We were growing our family. And I just kept buying and rehabbing and renting and going through that, up until probably the millennium, 2000. And we crossed over at that point. And, the market started to shift. We had the tech bubble, that Y2K, that whole deal. And it kind of shifted things. But things really changed on September 11th, 2001. And at the same time I was investing in real estate, and this is something important. When I was investing in real estate, I wasn't a full-time guy. I did that 100% on top of a full-time job and raising kids and having babies and a family and all that stuff. So I think a lot of people, they get frustrated about real estate investing today because they're like, well, I just don't have the time. And what someone taught me a long time ago was, what you do the 40 hours a week that pays for your home and your car and your meals and your whatever, that gives you a life. Every hour over 40 is your wealth. That's your creation. That's your future. And so I was willing to work as much after 41 to 80 that I was in the 1 to 40 for myself and my business. But it took years to do both. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to do that today, which, they're always wondering, what's the secret sauce? There's no secret sauce. Just, you got to be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. And so I just did that for a long enough period of time until I could stop having a W-2. And that ended in, I think, 1998, if I'm not mistaken, where that's the last time I worked for anybody. And I just went into full-time real estate. I became a realtor. So I had my license. I was doing investing. And that was kind of my thing then. And I just kept kind of running down the road. And, I could go on with a whole bunch of stories on that. But that's where really everything started. And so a lot of things happened after that. But it got up to about the late 1999, 2000. And I was done with W-2. Now I'm an investor, realtor guy all the time. And I just kept running from there.
That's awesome. So then what happened on 9/11?
So I had started a company. It was a technical recruiting headhunting company because, of course, I wasn't busy enough with real estate, being a realtor and having, kids and a dad. So even though I wasn't in a W-2, I was building companies. And so I started a technical recruiting company, headhunting, for all the things I used to do when I got out of college. And that was great. I had now 5 offices in the state of Wisconsin. They were all out of people's homes. So I didn't have brick and mortar. It made it very simple. And we had a good business going. And then 9/11, literally when that happened that day, within 2 months, I was down to 2 offices. And then within probably another 3 months, I was down to my office. And then we shut the business down months later. And because nobody was hiring what I was promoting, because everyone was freaked out. Well, 9/11 changed our world. One of the things in my lifespan that changed our world, that was the first one, was 9/11. And so now I don't even have a business outside of the investing, because when you have rental properties and you don't have a lot, they're not funding your life. I'm trying to grow the asset and keep rolling the money forward, and kept leveraging a little bit to buy the next one, and was doing all the stuff I was being taught at all the seminars across the country that I was still going to for all those years. But that business, the technical recruiting was gone. And so I just jumped full steam into real estate. And now I still had some other side stuff going, some multi-level. I was doing some of that stuff because I was an entrepreneur, and stuff came up, and I'm like, that sounds like I could do that. And so never said no to probably anything back then, until I fast forward into life in the world, but that's a whole nother story.
So, I mean, that sounds like the shiny object syndrome, right?
Oh gosh, I was terrible.
Once you get awoken to this entrepreneur world, now you start seeing opportunities everywhere, and it's really hard to focus.
I was a jack of all trades, master of none, for sure. And actually, I probably would have considered myself more of a master of real estate than any of the other businesses. But unfortunately, at the time, I had 8 irons in the fire, and real estate was 1 or 2 of them. And so I wasn't focused in there, so I couldn't make that excellent. I made everything, pretty good and whatever. And I just beat myself hardcore because I was grinding. And all the while, I going to these seminars and boot camps. At this point, I still didn't have a RIA. I still didn't have really the association. I'm flying all over the country, going to 3-day boot camps and seminars and whatever. And I think, coming back to Wisconsin after a trip, I was back on an island by myself because I didn't know a lot of investors. And in the 2000s, I started plugging into some different people, and then the RIA kind of emerged at the end of 2000, about 2010 or 9. There was another one in Madison, and spent some time there, met some people, but it was difficult because I was an island. So I was only thinking of all the things that I was buying courses of. And talk about shiny object, I'm doing lease options, and I'm doing subject to, and I'm, doing rehabbing and wholesaling and rentals. And all of a sudden you're just fragmented. And I get asked a lot, because I've been doing this a long time, with what today, if you could go back 20 years, what would you tell yourself? And I would say 2 things: get a coach right away and focus. And those would be the number 1 and 2 things. And it's what I talk about all the time today when people ask me anything about real estate, whether it's the basic question or the complex. It's, are you following the right person, and are you coachable, and are you focusing in one area before you go try to do 10 things? Because if I could have done that differently, it would have had some different, but I didn't have the guidance at that point. So that just was part of my journey, though, and so it led to other things. I got into developments and other projects. And then the second, or actually, there's been 3 significant things. 9/11, the 2008 crash, and then COVID. So all 3 of them had major impacts with businesses that I had. And certainly 2008, I won't go into detail, but I was on a huge development project that I sold a lot of my rentals that I had from the 90s and early 2000s. And I leveraged that into this huge development, which is still there today. It was a golf course, condominium, resorts on a lake, the whole deal. And at those days, the indoor water parks, that was like the thing. The Wisconsin Dells, if you've ever been there. Okay, this was right 30 minutes from the Dells. So this company was replicating it, and I became the sales guy for hundreds of condos, hundreds of homes, and I sold them all. It was a multi-million-dollar, hundreds of millions of dollar project. it was all great for the first 2-3 years. Made a lot of money, did a lot of fun things with family. In 2008, everything crashed. And that's the first seriously bad thing that happened in my life. And I a lot of times say it was the worst thing and the best thing, because everybody went bankrupt from that. I went bankrupt, lost everything. That was in 2008, 2007, 2008. When the dust finally settled, I was smoked, if for a lack of better words. And the best thing that came out of it was, when I say it was the best experience and the worst, what it did is it defined my family, because we made it through that. Still married to my same awesome wife, and she stood by the whole time, and we made it through all of that, and literally lost everything. I mean, down below zero, and it took years and years to get us back out. But what I didn't lose is this. I knew what to do, but I didn't have that. And so we learned a big lesson, but learned a lot about life, about the important things in life. Money can't buy that. And so we knew we could get the money back. We just needed time. So we got back on the horses and kept running down the road. And there was a lot of great things that happened after the market crashed, as if you're a real investor. So I was buying, flipping, wholesaling, started the RIA in Madison in 2012. And,
So that was part of your recovery.
I'm sorry?
That was part of your recovery. Kind of the
It was. What was interesting, Kevin, is during that same time before the crash in 2006, I started teaching. I got asked to teach the real estate investment course. It was a 3-credit class at the college as part of the real estate program for 2 years. And they wanted me to teach the investment class. And I thought, that is the coolest thing in the world. And I ended up going in there, and they, talked to whoever the dean, and got the job, and ended up creating the whole curriculum and built the whole course. And I built it around everything I'd been doing the previous 10 years about teaching people how to invest in rental real estate. And so it was an 18-week class, 3 hours a week. It was awesome. I did it for 4 years. And that was right in the middle of the crash of 2008, because I taught from 6 to 10. And when I got out the other side, what I found is that the world of academia, not only did it not pay me anything for the time, energy, and effort that I put into it, but it was so difficult to be able to really help people in the class the way I knew I could, because of the limitations of the college. I couldn't bring in, I had guest speakers every week that were all the people in my sphere of influence, bankers and contractors and CPA, all of them. And what happened was the college looked at it like there was solicitation, because obviously my students are asking, hey, can I get your number? Can I call you because of what you're doing for Chris? I would love to talk to you. Well, it took one person to complain and say they're soliciting, which they weren't, but didn't matter. So I got out of academia in 2010, and I started looking for a platform, because I love teaching. I love giving back, because I learned a lot from 2008. And one of them was, all the stuff I had been blessed with doing and learning. I enjoyed teaching it. And so after meeting Sean McCloskey in St. Louis in 2012 at a RIA event, he had a session on life and air. And it was I'm like, what is life? What is that? And that's the whole story of where that all came in my life. So I'm sure if your listeners, if they've been watching a long time, they've heard the word life and air. But that was
now Leadership Boardroom. Yes.
I'm sorry?
Now Leadership Boardroom.
Not Leadership Boardroom. No, this is life and air.
Yeah.
This is back in, the day. And so I met Sean, and then right when he said all that, I had just come out of bankruptcy and lost everything. And I didn't know what to do. I just couldn't get back on track. And life and air was the difference. And Sean introduced me to Steve, which ironically, I was at that event with Sean in St. Louis. And he goes, well, my partner, Steve Cook, he lives in Wisconsin. Where do you live? I'm like, Madison. He goes, yeah, he's in Baraboo. I'm like, dude, that's like an hour away from me. You got to be kidding me. Well, I get back and I meet Steve and so that just blossomed forever. And, those guys have been my coaches for 12 years and literally changed my life. And I go back to saying, if I could do two things over, I would get a coach or that mentorship, and stick to it and just do it and have focus. And yeah, Sean and Steve have been significant in my life as coaches and mentors to help me not only in real estate, but in business and certainly mostly in life. And so that's been a big impact.
So I'm a huge fan of quotes, right? I'm a Henry Ford fan. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. But I'm curious, going through this phase, right, of the bankruptcy and teaching and, kind of that phase, where was your mindset at? Was it good? Was it your wife, Suzanne, keeping you back in line? Was it, what was it that you were leaning on?
Yeah, I've always been a person that's had unbelievable faith. And back in the day when I've had coaches tell me this 15 years ago was, I think, the first coach that ever said, man, your faith is just crazy. And I asked him the question because at that point in my life, I wasn't a follower. I grew up in a religious family, Catholic, and I did all the stuff until I was 18, and it wasn't a fit in my life. I didn't understand it. I didn't want to do it. It just the way it was. And, nothing against my parents or any of that. It didn't, I was a kid. I don't know. I didn't have any friends who went to church or anything. So, going through all of that, when, I get into later years of life, I get into everything I'm doing with, Steve and Sean, and my mindset was just that. I had faith, but the faith was in me. Unfortunately, back then, my faith was, I believed everything I did, I would succeed at. I just 100%. And I literally would walk out in the road and close my eyes, and I knew I wouldn't get hit by a car. I had that blind faith, and that served me well in many, many things, and in other things, not so much. And so my mindset at that time was, I'm going to get back on the horse. I know real estate. I did it for years and years. And even though I lost it, I know I can go get it back. And so I literally found money out of thin air to be able to buy another course. And I got into an investment training group in 2000, I want to say 10, 11, and 12. And that got me kind of kickstarted back into, and banks would not lend me money. I had to get all private money because the banks, even though I had a portfolio of plenty of deals in the past, I had a BK. That was it. End of story. I had to wait for 10 years to finally get that. And you know what? I said, that's fine. I don't need your money. I'll go find it. And it's funny. Yep. Because I have been using private lenders ever since, and it has funded, tens of millions and millions of dollars of stuff that have been a lot of my investment partners and money lenders. And till to this day with self-storage, I do the same. So that, mindset, I think I already had a strong mindset and belief, but I still didn't have the rest of the elements. I just had the sheer will and grind to push me forward until I found the other components that I really needed.
That's great. Now, how did you go from that side into self-storage? Like what woke you or got you involved in that?
Yeah. So if you look at the RIA in 2012, and I grew that, and I was doing all the flipping and wholesaling, coaching. I had a coaching program, been teaching people for decades, and self-storage didn't even rear its head until 2019.
Oh, so it's pretty new.
I had still been doing other multifamilies and syndications and all this fun stuff. And it was 2019 that I'd always known it was out there. I had buddies a couple who had it, but it just never crossed my path. And it didn't change until I got intentional, until I actually started asking people what I was looking for and telling them what I was looking for. And so at the end of 2019 into 2020, I just started going and asking people, I'm looking for this. Anybody got self-storage? I started preparing myself and thinking about it. And literally within, I don't know, 4 months, I think, after speaking at every RIA meeting from the front of the room, haves and wants, hey guys, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. The 4th month, someone came up to me and said, hey, I've got a deal. It's under contract and I'm thinking about wholesaling it. I'm like, awesome. And so I literally within like that, I wrote an offer and I got it under well, it was an assignment, but I basically locked it up with them. And I thought, holy crap, I got a self-storage unit. And now this is January of 2020. Well, you remember what happened in March of 2020?
I do.
Quite clearly. So literally that was the next pivotal time in my life for not only business, but life. And that took me down a whole different rabbit hole. So self-storage, I got it under contract. Long story short, I did all the things I needed to get to closing. Closing was in May. I had it under contract. Banks called me in April and said, all loans, unless you're AAA plus, are shut down. We don't know until when, but we can't give you a loan. Went back to the seller and said, hey, I need some more time. They're like, nope, not going to happen. And so they had to close on it. And I lost it. And now COVID's starting. And ironically enough, I was at an event with Sean literally that weekend when the world shut down.
I was there.
Oh, then we were at the same event.
Yeah.
And people literally the first day there's hundreds and hundreds of people. Next day there's like half. And I'm like, I'm not leaving. So it was just crazy. But yeah, if you were there. So so that started a kind of a spiral of this whole COVID thing. And again, long story short, I got a double ear infection in May of that year of 2020. And Kevin, I have been getting a double ear infection for probably prior to that 25, 30 years. I used to have tubes in my ears when I was a kid and all this stuff.
Yeah, me too.
And so I get a double ear infection. They give me amoxicillin and I'm good. 25 years, never fails. I get it once a year. I get it in May. The right ear clears up, amoxicillin, and left ear doesn't. And I'm like, well, that's the first time ever. I'm like, what the heck? So I go back to the doctor, get more amoxicillin, go for another week, and nothing. And I'm like, what the heck? And I got this pressure. If you've ever had an ear infection or go up in a plane, I had that. And so I'm like, what is going on? And it just went month after month. And all of a sudden now I'm starting to get tinnitus and it's my ear's ringing. I'm getting this pressure in my ear and it's constant. And now I'm cycling up and down with ear pressure and loud ringing and kind of this weird dizziness. Now I'm getting sensitivity to sound and it's May, June, July, August, September. And I'm going to doctors. I'm like, what's going on? Nobody knows anything. And now I'm starting to see the specialist of the specialist of the specialist for ear, nose, and throat. And they're telling me that they're going to inject steroids into my cochlea. And so they take this honking needle and they inject steroids into my cochlea. And that's supposed to, I don't know, do something. And then that month in October or August, September, October, November of 2020, I'm not better. I'm getting worse. Ringing's getting louder, sensitivity. I'm not even going to the RIA anymore. I can't speak. And I'm just like up and down. And it's really weird. And I wake up one day in, I don't know, December. It was like December 17th, 16th, right before Christmas. And I woke up and that day, 2020, was forever the change because I was literally now nonstop pressure, loud ringing, like screaming, hissing, ringing in my left ear. And something that I learned later was called hyperacusis, which is apparently 1 out of 50,000 people get it. And I had it like a true champion.
Hooray!
Oh, yeah, yay. I was a winner on that one. And it was brutal. And it was, it literally changed my life. And so all the while, self-storage is kind of, I haven't been looking because I haven't been feeling good. And now it's January of 2021. I'm not going to the RIA. I'm barely leaving the house. When I go out, I'm wearing headphones because I can't talk or hear. It was just really weird. The sensitivity was so strong in any sounds. And all of a sudden I get a call a year later from the people that bought that storage and said, hey, we bought a bunch of apartments in the last year and we got this storage and it's kind of the redheaded stepchild. Would you still want to buy it? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. So I get it under contract again, same price. This is January 2021. Close on it in January or May of 2021, literally from the front porch of my house. Okay, I'm not leaving the house now. I'm pretty much confined because it's quiet. And so now I have my first storage unit. And I can barely go to the site. My wife's helping me. We're doing it all ourselves. And I'm coaching a couple people. Long story short, we go into 2021 and I'm coaching a gentleman who I helped him buy a couple of self-storage multifamily properties named Jason. And right at the end of this December of that year in 2021, he finds a self-storage property. And he's like, man, Chris, I got these other ones. I'm literally tapped out. And he said, you interested in going in on it? And I said, sure. So I ended up partnering with him on it. And that literally, what happened then was we just bought. Jason and I partnered on everything. We've got 10 facilities now in 3 states, and we're building some other stuff. But all of that was done at the worst health of my life. When I didn't go to the RIA, it was 18 months to 2 years. And I was going to every doctor, every holistic, everybody. Nobody knew what I had. Zero. Through blood work, I found out I had Lyme disease. I had heavy metals. I had hyperacusis, and I had tinnitus 24/7. It was crazy, Kevin. And I was in the deep hole. And the only place I had to look was up. And that's when Jesus came into my life back, I should say. I've always been a believer, but I've never been intentional or practiced or anything. Boy, during that time, I think that whole experience, that season, 2.5 to 3 years, I would say, where I was literally out of commission. I think that was a season for me that, God said, all right, you've been grinding, you've been whatever, and you don't need to do that. And he I was in a season. That's all I can say. It was quite the test, and it was a test of wills. I will tell you what, because it was bad, so bad at several times that I told my wife one day, I know why people commit suicide, because I was literally at a point sitting in my front yard on the driveway in a lawn chair in the middle of the summer, which I did every day. And I would just quiet, listen to trees and watch squirrels. And I literally, and my mind was like, I can't take this anymore. And no one's helping me. I can only I have hope with one person. And so that's really where my faith took a total turn, 180. And fast forward to March of 2023. Now I'm literally out of everything. I don't think I had a meal sitting at a kitchen table with my family 1 or 2 times in 2 years, because I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't hear when the ice maker went. It was too loud, all of that. And I was fighting to try to take holistic medicine and everything that everyone could recommend. I was taking every supplement known to man. Nothing worked. Nothing worked at all. And I had a good friend of mine who was one of my prayer warriors, as I called her, Erica. She recommended something at a totally different avenue that I could try. And it was called DNRS, Dynamic Neural Retraining System. And the author, the lady who put it together, is named Annie Hopper. And she went to a 3-day event, and she did it for her daughter who was having some stuff. But after she went through it, she's like, oh my gosh, Chris needs to try this. And I was down below. And so she came over to our house one day, brought the course, and I started going through it. And I read the first couple pages, and I'm like, this is all about mind stuff. Like I chronic pain and all this other stuff. I said, this isn't for me. And so I didn't go through it. Again, I could go on a long story here, but she basically, I went through it. It was a week or two later. Nothing changed. She said, Chris, I really think you should try it. I listened to the set, spent 3 days, built out this whole thing of what you're supposed to do. It's 100% mine. It's your limbic system, and it's just retraining your brain. And what happened was I went through that. I ended up getting worse when I was doing it. And she was excited because she's like, it's working. And I'm like,
wrong way.
Now I got vertigo and I got tinnitus and hyperacusis. I got all this stuff and I'm wiped out. I'm like, Erica, it's not working. And she's like, it is. I stopped for 2 months. Next thing I know, I was desperate again. And my wife met someone at church one day who not only was an audiologist and she understood the word hyperacusis, but she also had DNRS save her life because of the things she went through. And my wife's like, I was supposed to sit next to you today. She came home. This is now May of 2023, a week before my wife's birthday. And this lady, her name was Christy. I met her. She came over and she did something that I needed more than anything in life. And that was give me hope that what I'm doing could be fixed. And I went through and I started the course back up again after all this vertigo and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to grind. And literally within 48 hours, 2 days, I started feeling better. And I think, when you hear the word, it gets thrown around a lot, miracle. I would say I've had 2 miracles in my life. One was my son, who should be dead today, and he's going to be getting married in 53 days. He should be dead 6 years ago from carbon monoxide poisoning. No way he should be alive. He should have brain damage at minimum, and he's 100%. But that was an absolute miracle by all counts. And what happened to me, literally, I did nothing different except put some positive mental things in my mind, and I had greater faith than I've ever had before. And those things together helped me. And what's been cool is that season of my life, I believe my walk with faith and what I learned through that 3 years, 2.5 years, has now allowed me to help a lot of other people. Because DNRS, whether that's the answer or not, it's mindset, it's belief, it's all of that together. And that literally has changed everything. And I've been on the other side now for 21 months. And, trying to take full advantage of all of it. And our businesses have been growing. And what's funny, it's how many times my coaches have told me, Chris, you are doing too much in your business. You need other people to do stuff. You don't have to do it. And I'm like, no, I need to do it. I know how to do it. And I don't want to hire someone. And I think that was another way of God kind of hit me going, you know what? We're not going to let you do anything, much less sit on your front porch. We'll see how your business goes. And my business grew bigger than it ever had before in 30 years. And I wasn't around people, and I wasn't in office. I didn't do anything in it. It's crazy. Other people stepped up and they took over, which now I love it because I've got a totally different attitude about that. I believe things will work out. I'm happy to have other people stand in front and take all the credit for everything and go do it. And it's awesome. And I'll help teach you. And you just do that, and I'll do the things that I can do on my side. So it's been quite a interesting journey. Journey's not over, but it's part of the journey.
Wow. That is incredible.
Sorry, I didn't even take a breath, any of that, Kevin.
I mean, I'm glad you got it out. So you actually got me thinking about chronic pain. And it's something that we don't talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Chronic pain. It's one thing like, I hurt my shoulder. Oh yeah, my shoulder's a little tough today. Or, I hurt my leg, or, pick a thing, right? I got sunburn. You put some ointment, it goes away.
Yeah.
Chronic pain, when you can never take a break from it, it crushes your spirits.
Yep.
I mean, I can't imagine for that long. So apparently this is one of the benefits of getting older. I haven't known it, but I battle gout is my thing. so high uric acid. And dude, it's crippling. There was one year, like it was several months, like getting out of bed, getting out of a chair, walking to the bathroom, your feet are shattering. Like it makes you not want to be active. It really does things that you're like, okay, screw it. Everybody else, all the kids' soccer games, families doing this stuff. Guess what am I doing? I'm being crabby, sitting in the house. I'm an extrovert. I like to be active and happy. This was all of the opposite things.
Well, you realize how valuable your health is. And you talk about age, we're all getting older. And, your body doesn't jump back the way it used to. And unfortunately, too, I think, the foods that we buy, the foods that we eat, and there's just so much garbage and crap out there, all the way down to the water. I mean, if people really knew, and during this whole thing, which I didn't even bring up because it's not that I forgot it, but I'm trying to make sure I'm getting to points quick enough, is my wife is running through and dealing with cancer. And so now she's at my worst stage. My wife's in Mexico at Hope for Cancer for 3 weeks. And, to try to battle everything she's going through. And, here she is trying to help me, which she can't. And it's hard to even say that because there was nothing anybody could do. And that's a terrible feeling when you can't help someone, you're watching them in pain. And I see all the stuff she's had to change in her life. And I think our paths of health came together. And, I call her kind of a lighthouse, a beacon of light for people, because since she's come out of that, and she's still not 100%, but she's definitely in a much, much better place. And she's doing the things she needs to do without having to get the two things that all the doctors in the U.S. want to do, cut it out or poison it. She has avoided that 100%. And she's just an amazing warrior in what she's done, and not only looking over the family and everything, but that mixed in with her whole journey, that's been 2 years, 3 years now. So all of that was going on at the same time. And so she's in a better place. I'm in a better place. We're still on the journey. We're still never 100%, but all that gets back to what I was saying with food and the water we drink and all of that. It's amazing how that affects our health. Back to the health, that's such a big piece because it's what we do every day. We eat, we drink, and man, unless you're really, really intentional about what you eat and drink, there's a lot of stuff out there that just unfortunately isn't good.
The processed foods, everything has so much sugar in it. I just read, because in my stuff, now everybody's pre-diabetic, everybody, high triglycerides and cholesterol, right? All the, I started following my blood work, I guess, again, things you don't necessarily track until you need to.
Yep.
But have you heard of this glucose goddess?
Glucose what?
Goddess.
I haven't.
Gosh, it's called, the book that I read was The Glucose Revolution. Okay. I tell your name, I don't know it. She has an Instagram, all this stuff. But it's really, a lot of her conversation is, if you could manage your glucose spikes, all these other things fix itself. This is one of those things nobody's really watching yet. But it's one of those, even it comes to a pattern of, you could still have your sugars and your sweets, but just make sure you do eat it in this process. So like when you start a meal, you want to eat your greens, like your salad, or, don't use a pre-made dressing, make your own, like oil, vinegar type stuff. And then you have, don't quote me on all this stuff, but I think then it's your proteins, then your starches, and then your sweets. It's the way you eat your food. It could be the same food, but the way, because it's the speed that they break down in your system, because if you put the starches first, it's going to slow everything else going through the process. And what does she call it? About covering your carbs or something like that. Like, so if you're going to eat something poor, like a piece of cake, you basically take a swig of vinegar first. And then like afterwards you exercise or do like squats. Just even little things like that will help manage your spikes. And everything comes down to managing your glucose spikes.
Oh, yeah, that's way above my pay grade, what you just said.
I,
My wife probably knows all of that because she's got super brilliant in the last 2 years of learning about all this because of the cancer stuff. And it's amazing. I mean, she's been in that industry with health and wellness and pea proteins and that type of thing for whatever, 10 years or 10, 12 years. So, yeah, it's been an interesting run.
the other thing I learned about was the uric acid, right? Because that's triggered with the gout. Gosh, I think it's a Dr. Axe thing. I don't know. My wife follows this one, but
Okay.
uric acid is one of those other, like, you know how people talk about blood pressure or cholesterol. Well, uric
Yeah.
acid is almost just as easy to test, but no one's tracking it. And so many of these other diseases are all can be followed as if you keep your uric acid level at a certain place. And it's one of those like, you know, the answers are out there, just nobody's using,
Yeah.
but what's easier just to push out a bunch of junk food and, put dyes and chemicals and think it's fine. I look at our kids, left unattended or even attended. We're like, hey, those Takis might taste good, but they're not great for you. Like, if we just got back from all inclusive, what are they doing? Eating as many daiquiris and on alcohol, but like candy and daiquiris, and it's like you're doing all the things like I'm reading not to do. It's like stop. So
yeah, well, and I think everything, right? It's in quantities. It's in how much. If you eat a pizza every day for a month, well, okay, you're going to feel the effects and you're going to look the effects of doing that. So,
who knew we were going to get into a little health talk there?
Always has to be some.
I'm not the guy, but apparently I know a couple books who are. That's funny. So now, how has self-storage changed your life? Did you get rid of your other stuff? Is this what you focus on?
Yeah, good question. So the storage, yes, I sold my last multifamily apartment building probably a year and a half ago. And what I found through doing this, so we built a management company around all our storage facilities, and we manage them all remotely. So we don't third party it. We've found that has been the difference maker and where we're at today. A lot of people in the market, in the storage market, that are struggling right now, and it's COVID changed everything with the storage market. It got really sexy really quick, and obviously everybody was moving into with each other, and they're storing stuff, and businesses are shutting down, and there was a huge demand for storage, and the prices went up, values went up, the whole deal. People bought. We know, just like real estate, people buy at the wrong time. And so that happened. And I think I feel fortunate that I've had enough happen to me, good and bad, over the many decades, that when we got into this, I was pretty darn conservative when we came in. And so Jason and I, everything we look at, we're pretty conservative. And we've been able to keep all our numbers up. We manage everything ourselves. We have a couple of VAs from the Philippines. My son is our kind of boots on the ground manager. And then we do everything from our locations. I'm in Madison, he's in Dallas, and that's been going really well. And they're just simple storage. I don't have climate control. We stay in our lane. We know exactly what we have. We keep them full. And, I guess arguably not 100%, but I always said if it's 100%, you're not charging enough rent because what we learned is always wanted to be, if I could be at 96, 7, 8%, then my rents are probably right on. And a little vacancy is all right. But the market's changed a lot. Prices, interest rates are up. Too many people bought at the wrong time and they paid too much with the high interest rates. And then the people that bought at low interest rates and they're stuck now are looking at refinancing or selling, and the rates have gone up double. And that puts them in a tough spot if they bought lean. And so we've been fortunate that we're in a good space on that. We're still looking to buy. I think it's going to be a fantastic time to buy. but you just got to be really diligent about that with your underwriting and the markets you're in, and understand that. And then we're embarking on our brand new storage. I say my storage tree has a new branch, and that is everything we have right now is rental. And we now have some land that we're going to be developing commercial storage warehouse condos. And they're going to be 2,500 square foot duplex buildings, 1,250 square feet, big 13 by 12 door, and heated and insulated and, super nice, and bathrooms. And we're selling those. And so, been in this business over 30 years now, and I've never truly done a ground up development, and I'm knee deep in it right now. So that'll be interesting. So I've got enough land where we could build a lot. We're in a really interesting, unique area that I think the opportunity will be something that other people will jump on, but we'll be first to market, and we'll be digging a hole probably in about 2 months here. So looking forward to that.
Man, so new commercial development, a son getting married. Any other groundbreaking activities you're doing?
Oh, man. Those are pretty big. Those are good ones. Yeah, no, it's, and no, there's not. Oh, well, I guess, yes. My wife and I are going to build a house, and we just got our lot, literally got the offer accepted a couple of days ago. The lot is 2 blocks away. So when all this went on, I'll go back a little bit. When I was sick or not feeling good, we had our forever home. We built it in 2018. I got sick in 2020. And then with my wife and her cancer and all that stuff, we ended up selling in 2.5 years ago, because at that point I didn't know, I couldn't take care of anything. It was a great house on a great lot, and it wasn't meant to be for long term, and we just weren't sure of the future. So we said, you know what, we're going to be an empty nester. The real estate market's like on top. I can get top dollar for the house. We sold it, did well, and moved into another house that was brand new. We were just renting. So we've been renting for 2.5 years, first time in 30 plus years. And I think we're at the point where we just said a couple of weeks ago, you know what, time to build another house. So I'm going to general it, which is awesome. My wife and I love doing that. We've done it on the last 4 houses. And and it's only 2 blocks away. Our kids live close by, so that's great. We got 3 boys like you.
Hey.
And
good numbers.
So that'll be a lot of fun. It's just we're building it from the standpoint of saleability to the next person. As an investor, I'm already thinking ahead to what's going to make this property sell in 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, when we will ultimately then build our last house. And, we're looking for land and something we can be out, grow our own food, and, have.
Oh, you're going to homestead it.
Whatever, all that stuff that we want to do, but just we don't want to be rushed in it. So that'll be fun. Another project. So, 2025's got a lot of things going.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff going. Those are big life things, Chris. So when are you
got a great business going, and so she's busy, and so it's all good.
When are you going to write the book about all this?
No, you know what? I don't know that I have the patience to write a book. I have to find someone really good who could suck it out of me, and then I definitely have a book's worth of teachable moments. From 30 plus years of stuff, businesses and life, and good, bad, and ugly, right?
So you gave some good advice, right? With the get a coach and focus.
Yep.
Gosh, there's a lot of points in your life, Chris, that you could look at and say, how would you talk to that Chris? But I think probably, again, this is me looking at what the story you told me, the chronic pain, like going through the ear, really, like you said, you become borderline suicidal, insert your right word there. But the fact that you recognize why people like, I'm out, like this sucks. This absolutely sucks.
100%.
Then you lay that over with your wife going through her part, and you can't be there. Right? You can't necessarily even be an ear for her to listen to because it's so painful, like one to the other. Like, what could you possibly do? How could you help that person dealing with that? Because a lot of people say, oh, you don't understand, or you don't get, like, you can't understand. Like, what advice could you have given yourself or somebody in this type of situation?
Oh man, it's interesting because all the books I've read over the years, I mean, I've got small books here and I got other books in storage and, waiting for the next house. And, I think of all the stuff that I've ever read and how much I already know how powerful the mind is, right? And I mean, the things we think and the self-fulfilling prophecies and all the things that junk in, junk out. And when we start our brain, I believe a big part of my journey and my time when I was not feeling good, and I'm sure Susanna's as well, is, your mind, I start waking up every day and I'm already in the process of how am I going to get through today? I'm already defeated in my head because it just never stopped. And I know there's so many people going through that. And it was interesting because the DNRS, well, whether it's a tool or not, it's a tool. What it did is it forced me to change my thinking, because I had stinking thinking going for a couple years of every day. All I could do every single day my only solace was night. God allowed me to sleep. And that was the one solace I had. But literally from the second I woke up, all I could think about was I can't wait to go to bed because I want to get to sleep because everything's shut off. The pain's gone. And so I did that over and over. And when I did DNRS, it was a tool that got my mind engaged on the good things, the things in the past, the things I want in the future, and what I'm blessed for, and all this stuff. And whether it was that tool or it was just somebody directing me to get the junk out of my head and stop, being the pity party. And I don't want to say I was a pity party. I just didn't have any outlet, and I didn't know how to think about anything. And so I would say to people, get around somebody. For me, it was my pastor and my prayer warriors who were smart. One, is a pharmacist, and they're very holistic, but they helped me to think better and to give me hope, those folks around me. And boy, if you're trying to do it yourself, you can't. You got to find help and help here on earth and help, not on this earth. And I needed both for me. And I would tell people those were the folks I went to. And DNRS, if nothing else, it's a couple $100. I can tell you right now that after I did that, I realized how many people that would help because of what it did for me. Yes, but because of the homework or the process of what they had you do on a consistent daily basis of retraining your brain to think about the good things. And it was well worth it to me. I still recommend it to people, and I talk to people about it, have been for 2 years. And the only people that didn't have success with it that I talked to tried to do it on their own, i.e. not coachable. And I told them, I said, literally, you need to follow it. I did 100% verbatim. And I said, if you're not coachable, it doesn't matter what you do. You've got to follow somebody who's been there or been in similar situation and put your best foot forward. And I know it's not easy, whether it's, like you say, chronic pain or ear or there's so many. But I think that was a great tool because it went right to the mind. It had nothing to do with any of the ailments. It went to the mind, which controls the ailments, the good and the bad. You're what you think you get, right? We know that from reading books. So I would say, I would highly recommend that to anyone who's stuck. They're like, I've tried everything. I don't even know what to do. Try it and see what happens. What's the worst thing that could happen? Nothing. I mean, it's put some good things in your mind and make you think differently because you have to break the cycle. of
Is that a book or is that a program? Like how would
the
somebody
program?
get
It was
that?
literally a 3-day. I watched it right on my computer, and it had a little. I don't even think it was a binder. It was a couple $100. It was her name's Annie Hopper, DNRS, and it was all online. I did the whole thing online, and if I would tell people if they do it, just follow it. Whatever Annie says, just do it, because that's what I did. I literally followed her everything she said. Even some of it seemed goofy and weird, like I'm in my room shouting to myself these, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And you know what? It made a difference. It made a huge difference. And I think anyone would be better off trying it. As a recommendation, I don't get anything from it. I know what it did, and I know how powerful the mind is.
Fantastic. All right. One last thing. If you could have like the person out there struggling or looking at getting out of real estate, right? Maybe they're going through the bankruptcy phase of your phase, right? And they're thinking, F this, F that, or, real estate sucks, or, I saw you rebuild yourself, going through that phase. To that person, right? To the person thinking, maybe this isn't right for me, or maybe I'm a failure. What would you tell that person? Or maybe they've started, maybe they've had to start again, or, should I go back to something else? What would you tell that person, that borderline?
A real estate person. Yep. Yeah. And I have this conversation with people in my RIA all the time. And what I tell them is, man, the first thing is you have to stay plugged in. You have to get around people. I tell them all the time, if you're not going to come to the RIA, how do you expect to be successful? And then I ask the question all the time, if you went to your job once a month, could you still have a job and get a paycheck? Of course not. And so it's no different in real estate investing, although we don't do it full time, right? People look at it as a hobby, but it's a business. It still takes time, energy, and effort. And so you don't need to work 40. Most people think, well, I can't do it the way that other guy does it because I don't have 40 hours. Yeah. I have a job. I have kids. I have sports. I have whatever. Let me tell you, that's how I started. And I know 100% you have to be willing to take that extra time. We all have 168 hours in a week. It's the great equalizer. And you have to figure out where you're spending your 168 hours. Okay. And once you do that, plug into your RIA, find people that you associate with that you can connect with, take them out to lunch, get in with them, go to the different trainings and stuff, but get yourself plugged in around people who, like me, I love helping those people. I seek them out because I know they're struggling, and and I have been coaching a long time. So some people I'll help maybe do some mentoring or one-on-one to get them do that. I do that for self-storage people, to help them get into their first property. And I only started it because I know what it takes to do it. And so we've definitely started doing that with some people. But I think on a simple front, you just got to get in and plug in. And then you have to spend some time. If you expect to be successful 2 hours a week, or it's just probably not going to happen unless you're super intentional about that 2 hours. Like, what's the most productive time you can spend in that 120 minutes to get leads or market or whatever? And you just got to plug in. I would say go to your real estate investment group, go to your meetup, get around those people who are doing it. And there's people who will help you. Just got to go open up and you got to ask.
Fantastic. Chris, thank you so much for being on. I'm glad we finally were able to arrange this. I mean, what you're doing up there is fantastic. It's exciting to hear. So you got me interested now in self-storage. It's pretty awesome. So your story is amazing, kind of the stuff that you guys have gone through, and truly it is awesome. So continue being an inspiration to others, tell your story, and just get it out there. So Chris, fantastic. Thank you again so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
All right. See ya. A couple of things I just want to pull out of there. But some of the stuff he talks about, like, is get a coach, right? Get a coach and stay focused. But with that, when you get that coach or you get that program, his words twice in two different versions of that is follow the course. If there's a process, follow the process. And it works. He did it with the Carlton Sheets. He did it with the DNRS, right? Follow the process. Like, do what they say. Even if it makes you feel silly, even if you're running around saying that, like, follow the process. Because if you do, it works. You may not know all the pieces. You may not know why. Follow the process. There is a reason people put it together like that. I really liked when he was talking to the people still working, right? The W-2 jobs. He's like, hey, those first 40 hours, that is for your, the business you're working for, pay the bills, keep the lights on, go vacation, whatever it is. The 41 through 80 time, that's what is creating your wealth. I think some people just don't like to talk or look at the fact that sometimes you have to work. You actually have to do the things. And I appreciate that. There's no secret sauce. Do the work. Follow the process. But the other part I think that I really want to make sure I look at, because he does go from this phase of intense ear pressure. I get earaches. I have ear problems. So I could totally understand when you can't hear or focus. Like, it is literally in your brain, this process of just annoyance, right? But it was really that ear pain and that problem actually made him cry out to Jesus, right? Helped him realize that he needed that relationship. So what, ears to Jesus? I don't know. We could work on your book, Chris. But the other concept is hope. How beautiful and precious this idea of having and keeping hope through all processes. So if you're going through a dark time, if life is bleak, or you just don't know why you're going on, find hope, right? Whether it's in a savior, whether it's in a coach, whether it's in a process, find that hope. And if life is good and you're just like dancing on sunshines and rainbows here, be that hope to somebody else, right? So make sure when you get through that valley of darkness, when you get through that tough time, go back and help those other people who are still struggling, right? When you can, make the hope for those others. So guys, thank you so much from all of us here at the Kevin Duragi Show. Go out there and be hope. Thank you.